Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone, and welcome to From Innovation to Impact System Transformation that Changes Lives. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Fiona Costello, and I'm honoured to be your host for today's session. I am so glad you could join us for today's fireside chat. We're delighted to bring you this special webinar presented by EMIC in collaboration with Strongest Families Institutes. Over the next hour, we'll explore how sustained innovation, co-design, data-driven decision-making, and technology can be harnessed to transform mental health systems and genuinely improve people's lives. A few things to look forward to today. We'll hear from our incredible speaker. Some of you may know her already, Dr. Patricia Lingley Posse, co-founder and CEO of SFI, who has led the development of their Iris platform and the scaling of a stepped care e-mental health model grounded in 25 years of social science. We'll dive deep into the practices that make innovations stick, from co-design with families to workforce models to measurement-based care and real-time data feedback. We'll surface both the successes and the hard lessons learned as SFI has scaled its services across Canada, lessons that are relevant to nonprofits, healthcare organisations, policymakers, and innovators in any geography. And finally, we'll look ahead to what's next in e-mental health, the emerging trends, evolution, potential paths forward, and what Dr. Lingley Posse is most looking forward to. You'll hear from the wonderful Trish very soon, but first I just have a few quick things to mention that you will all be familiar with if you've attended a few of these by now. First and foremost, feel free to share your current location or area of interest. To do so, you can click on the three dots next to your name tag, choose edit, and add your country or area. This allows you to connect with others who share similar interests. If you have any questions for the panelists during the webinar, please feel free to post them in the Q&A box. During the Q&A session, I will do my best to include as many of them as possible in our discussion. And lastly, and as always, today's webinar is being recorded and the EMIC team will soon share the recording in the Knowledge Bank. So without further ado, let's get started. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Patricia Lingley Posse, CEO of Strongest Families Institute. Dr. Patricia Lingley Posse is co-founder of SFI and SFI's proprietary digital health platform, Iris. She is president and CEO of SFI, assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatry at Dalhousie University, and a scientist at the IWK Health Centre. Dr. Posse has more than 30 years of pediatric nursing experience with expertise in research methods, scale development, and the conduct of randomized clinical trials. Past 20 years have been focused on psychological research, specifically harnessing the advantages of technology to deliver accessible and timely distance, evidence-based interventions to children, youth, adults, and families. Dr. Posse has published 32 articles and editorials, and as the leader of SFI and Iris, Dr. Posse has scaled SFI services successfully within Canada and in some regions internationally. She is the recipient of the Digital Health Canada 2020 Women Leaders in Digital Health Award, the CAMIMH Champions of Mental Health Award 2019, Atlantic Canada Top 50 CEO 2018, and the co-recipient of the 2017 Governor General Innovation Award of Canada and the 2013 Ernest C. Manning Principal Ankana Award for Social Innovation. Under her leadership, Strongest Families Institute has also received the 2012 Mental Health Commission of Canada Award for Social Innovation. With such an impressive bio, I am so pleased. Introduce Trish. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Fiona, for that kind introduction. And
Trish?
thanks, Yes? Can you? Oh,
Yes, we can hear you. I was just
you.
checking.
Okay,
Thank
you can
you.
hear me? Okay,
Yep.
great. So I'm going to share my screen and start the presentation. So can you let me know if you see it when I share it? Okay, there might be a little bit of a delay. Okay, So thanks again for everybody for joining us and taking your time to come hear about our remarkable journey over the last 25 years. So in the interest of time, I'm going to head right into the presentation. I'm going to have about 20 to 25 minutes, so hopefully I will stay on track. There's lots to talk about. I'm going to first start with our land acknowledgement. Strongest Families is located in Nova Scotia, Canada, in Mi'kmaq territory, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the Treaties of Peace and Friendship, which did not deal with the surrender of lands and resources, but established the rules of an ongoing relationship between nations. We are all treaty people. I also want to acknowledge that people of African descent have been living in Nova Scotia for over 400 years, and we honor and offer gratitude to those ancestors of African descent who came before us to this land. So today, SFI's journey, I'm going to talk a little bit about our scalable system of care, some of the innovation that we have implemented at the same time we were developing all of our programs and this actual system of care, how we've leveraged the advantages of innovation over the years, as well as leveraging our data to inform change, looking at some of our growth challenges and our sustainability pieces, as well as a little bit of a glimpse of our future of SFI. So why are we here today? Why does it matter if we're looking at, finding effective, scalable solutions that make a difference in people's lives? Well, we're here. Why this matters really is our youth, our children, our next generation are at risk. We have several reports, and a couple that I wanted to highlight was the first one here that you'll see is Raising Canada. They've identified in this recent 2005 report top 10 threats of childhood. And number two is poor mental health. Another recent report in 2024 by research meant oh my gosh, Mental Health Research Canada, the generation at risk, really highlighted the fact that 1 in 5 youth are struggling with mental health issues, and suicide is our number two cause of death in youth between the ages of 16 and 24. Now we know that these are, global issues because we're seeing reports internationally, and here's one from the WHO that really shows that this is a global issue. Our generation at risk identifies that 1 in 7 youth struggle with a mental health disease or disorder, and suicide is the number 3 cause of death in youth between 15 and 29. So really, this is a urgent global issue that we need to address. We know that there's still demands, especially post COVID, on our systems. There's not enough system capacity to meet the demands. Therefore, there's still wait lists in many areas. And we know that as our children wait to receive treatment and effective treatment, the risk of worsening conditions rises. Again, they are the future generation. They're here to look after us. And so they're counting on us to get it right by design, a system transformation that is effective and scalable to meet their needs. And that really aligns with a recent report from the Mental Health Commission of Canada, their 2025 e-mental health strategy that was released. So I'm going to just take you down a road of an example of a evidence-based scaled system. Yes, it did take us 25 years in the making, but we at Strongest Families were able to develop a system of care that is now a universal system of care using a step care approach. So initially, when we started out in our research in the year 2000, our design of our system of care was really focused on intensive programs that overcame diagnosable mental health disorders in our children and families. And that is grounded in about 25 years of social science research. We continue to do research. But one of the fundamental tenets that we have embedded since ground zero, since the year 2000, is co-design. Co-designing is a tenet that is critical to us getting it right by design. We co-design first, always with our end users, our clients, our participants. We also use IDEA lens to make sure that we're hearing the voices from multiple different people of lived experience. We co-design with policymakers, influencers, decision makers, professionals, academic, because we really wanted to make sure that this system would work. Many of our programs will span different of the most common mental health areas, such as positive parenting to target behavior disorders, nighttime bedwetting does have a certain significant psychological impact on children and parents. And then we have anxiety and depression stress programs for all ages across the age span. We then, as you'll see some of our history, we wanted to embark on developing a stepped care model with 3 levels of intensity, which is now being disseminated across Canada, and so that it's a population mental health promotion prevention approach with the low level 4-week program, still with a coach-led component, with 2 other higher levels of program intensity. And this is true across all of our programs. As I was introduced, we are a Canadian charity. There are some challenges with that. And we are completely bilingual. And you're going to see that as we transport our system of care over time. What is grounding us in our scalability really is our paraprofessional coach model. We've been pioneers in this work since year 2000. Our coaches are highly trained, highly capable. They follow our protocols. They are not licensed professionals. They're highly monitored, so we grade them for quality assurance purposes, and that is all embedded within our proprietary software platform called Iris. Iris is very innovative, it's very interactive. We now have a fully interoperable app. We didn't want an app for this, an app for that, so it's fully integrated within our Iris system. It even works without a wireless connection so that people who are having challenges in those types of remote regions and or they can't afford internet will still get those prompts and reminders. And we are happy to announce that we have gone through the comprehensive assessment by ORCA and Mental Health Commission of Canada and have received certification for our app to show that it's culturally safe and secure. So really, the system that we've designed with our paraprofessional coaches, with a workforce that's readily available, with our technology that drives down organizational waste, so it increases the amount of time our people are on the phone, are really the have given us the advantages of scaling quickly. So we can scale quickly, we can ramp up and reduce wait lists. We've been doing this for quite a few years, and we are consistently seeing strong outcomes. And as a charity, we're low cost and high impact. Again, I want to just emphasize the importance of co-design. Again, we've been doing this for years. We do have an article, an integrated knowledge translation article that talks about the strategy that we embedded right from the beginning to make sure that we included all of the key interest groups to make this program and system successful. We follow a co-design process that has been used and validated with Design Thinking 2.0. And the goal here is really to make sure that first we empathize with our end users, we listen, we make sure that we're hearing collectively from multiple different diverse backgrounds, but that also includes our children and our youth, families. And then we go through a process where we really are, not just prioritizing empathy at everything we do, but making sure that we're listening and making sure that these solutions are going to meet the needs of our end users. We take a comprehensive approach to understanding their user experience, and this is an iterative process that we continually improve over time. We have advisory committees, we ideate with our folks, and we problem solve, and then we create a prototype and we'll test it with our advisory committees before we implement it within the system. And we continue to reevaluate and revise as we go. Here's a really good example of just a recent co-design effort with our kids who were between the ages of 6 and 11. If you can see the Chase Breeze Away program on your left-hand side was kind of crude. It was really quite remarkable in its day, but the kids really wanted to aesthetically upgrade it, and so we applied for a grant and were successful. And this is now the afterwards product, and they're so excited to have the visuals looking like they want them to motivate them. I also wanted to just make sure, again, I highlight the workforce. Our coaches are highly capable. They're so compassionate and they're dedicated. Um, we have really sophisticated training protocols, and we have supervisors who oversee them. We have KPIs who monitor their progress and their productivity and their quality. And they're highly trained to follow our protocols first and foremost, but also trained to problem solve and tailor our programs to meet the needs of each individual child, youth, adult, and family that we serve. Similarly, Iris has also been designed to be interactive. It has a lot of personalization, but tailoring using basic AI, so triggers um, and flags and reminders. So basic AI like if then this then this. And I guess the other piece that I wanted to really emphasize is the fact that with our technology, we're able to do real-time data capture. And there's not many points that I don't think we're, not capturing. We're capturing a lot, and we can run reports on just about any data point in our system. So it gives us real-time data entry at our fingertips. So I'm going to just kind of go into some of the success and challenges that we've had over the years. You're going to see our history over the last 25 years. I'm just going to highlight some of the key pieces of what led to our success with our scaling abilities. So as you can see, our research phase took us about 10 years. We still continue to do ongoing research and development that's all integrated as part of our ongoing innovation. Um, it was quite so years ago, we used to be known as Family Help. So if you look at any of our publications from back in those days, we would be called Family Help. We were embedded within our lab at our hospital, IWK Health Center, with collaboration with our local university, Dalhousie. And we really undertook quite a huge undertaking in the very beginning because we wanted to develop this system of care that included paraprofessionals so that we weren't utilizing the same workforce as professionals and competing in that way. And so we wanted to develop 6 programs, the content with international experts, with our users, um, with our policymakers, and get all of the content right based on best science. We complemented the content with videos and audio skill demonstration videos so that people could read but also watch how to implement it, and then of course the coaching component. So all of those were developed in tandem, so that we would run 6 randomized trials simultaneously. So it was a really huge undertaking. We had protocols and processes that we had to develop, training protocols, and at the same time we decided to also develop our technology to support this. Um, so it was certainly a lot of trial and error, and we wanted to make sure that we did do the co-design right from the get-go. So it really helped inform our programs to make sure people were seeing themselves in our programs. And as you can see, research did take a long time. And in fact, to do all the data analysis and the data cleaning and then go to publication, the publication was really what solidified and built that trust with some of our funders. So as we continued our research and development, we actually ran an RCT in Finland, so that international collaboration was there, which was amazing. We started looking at other programs and doing research with other investigators on, pediatric sleep disturbances and juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease, obesity. excuse me, youth obesity, postpartum depression, and cancer. So we had all of these other programs on the go as we were running these randomized trials as well. And so one of our challenges, though, that we found post research was, okay, what are we going to do with this? The goal was to establish a nonprofit, which was again another huge hurdle to go through. By establishing a nonprofit, one of our challenges was we needed to move out of our lab at the IWK and establish an independent entity. Fortunately, because of our integrated knowledge translation and the trust that we had been building with our relationships with our government funders, we actually received a provincial expansion within Nova Scotia in around the year of 2012. That was a really, really huge test of our system of scalability. We actually were able to scale up quickly, and we reduced a 400 child wait list in our local hospital. Within 3.5 months, we had them in coaching services. So that was, and then we kept repeating that over and over in other jurisdictions. So in year one, we started with helping about 700 clients and about 14 staff. Now, as we went over these years, one of the common challenges that we continue to face is adoption. Because Canada is very, very broad, we are still challenged with not being equitably available across Canada, but we are working on leveraging the advice of our government partners and also the influence of others to increase uptake across Canada. And so, as you can see, we looked at how can we also build in more capacity within SFI so that our ramp up to take people off the wait list is actually faster. And so one of the additions that we added was a group-based coaching um, approach that has really proved over time to increase our capacity. It's just as effective as one-on-one coaching, but it helps also develop that peer support within the parenting groups. So, as you can see, over time, we started adding more and more contracts. We got our first national contract through the Military Family Services Ottawa. At that time, we developed a military division that was led by the military spouse. And part of that was making sure that we embedded and co designed our programs to ensure that our coaches and our content were applicable for military and veteran cultural competency. As well as taking on a military contract, we also heard loud and clear from many provinces like New Brunswick here in Nova Scotia, or sorry, here in Nova Scotia, sorry, here in Canada, I mean, New Brunswick and the military very much required us to be completely bilingual. So you can imagine us taking all of our content across all of the programs and all of the videos and all the audios, including Iris translation and translating them into French. So, we did do that successfully, but it wasn't without a lot of effort and trying to find additional funding to support those development tasks. We also were challenged not just with limited resource for innovation. We also found that because we didn't own and operate Iris at the time, it was still embedded in our research lab, that we were falling behind the innovation that our service clients wanted us to keep up with. So with that, in 2017, we were able to actually bring Iris in-house. And that made a huge difference by bringing Iris in-house because we had complete control over the advancement of it. In that time period, we actually were quite successful in receiving funding from the rest of our Atlantic provinces, so that by the year between 2015 and 2017, we had secured contracts in all of Atlantic Canada. And that was with the success of getting our charitable status at the same time. We were able to do fundraising, and we were able to raise funds from one of our significant donors, Bell Let's Talk, to get a matched funding from those particular governments. So that was a really helpful strategy for us to secure those government contracts. You'll see that we had another international opportunity with a pilot of one of our programs in Vietnam. And so, yes, we had challenges with limited funding and resources for our technology, but because we applied for charitable status, we were able to actively fundraise, and we were quite successful getting diversifying our revenue streams by getting donations. But we also were looking at more grants and research along the way as well. So as we progressed over the years, we knew that there was the opportunity for us to continue to add new service operate offerings. So we added an adult ICANN program that address adult anxiety, depression, and stress for 18 above. And then we were really fortunate to secure a grant from Public Health Agency Canada to absolutely finally transform all of these intensive programs into a stepped care model. Um, this is a 10-year funding cycle. It goes through three phases. We have to reapply to each phase. And we are heading into phase three, the final phase of that 10-year funding cycle. But it has been absolutely instrumental in helping us transform Iris and our system of care into now this universal, validated system of care. At the same time, we took on new contracts in all of Manitoba, northern Saskatchewan, focusing on our remote and rural Indigenous communities. And we also were looking at acquiring some of the programs that we had worked on with some of our research collaborators. So we acquired Breathe, which was a self-meted youth program that we took on. And then, of course, in 2020, we all experienced the impacts of COVID-19. In the very beginning, we ramped up quickly because we were one of the only service providers here in Canada who actually were able to do all of our program offerings from a virtual perspective. And so we were helping out many other organizations as they were ramping up. We were also successful in that time to gain more contracts. So Northwest Territories and the Yukon, and another couple of national contracts with Veterans Affairs and the Together Canada portal that launched around the same time. We were focused on making sure that we were leveraging more contracts, getting our services out there to more people, but we also wanted to keep our technology innovative. So as you can see, we had another success with getting donations to really improve our technology by having this fully integrated app. We developed an e-triaging algorithm that helped our clients as they came through our universal system, help them navigate through the different levels based on our validated outcome and screening tools. So I did mention about the competitive landscape, and I want you to just see over time some of the highlights here. As of 2022, we were helping upward of 13,000 clients with about 100 staff. So you can imagine we were able to scale. But boy, I'll tell you, we've been facing some challenges recently. There's this notion of virtual fatigue that we're hearing about. People are very much wanting face to face. They'd rather wait for face to face. And what led from that was we saw historically low referral rates, and then we were seeing some funding issues. Wellness Together Canada portal was shut down. There was more competitiveness in this field and more RFPs. And I can say strongly right now, it's very difficult for a small charity, to compete with the competitive nature right now with large corporations. And so, as you can see, we've gone from ramping up to helping 13,000 clients and more, and now we're back down. We had to pivot, we had to downsize, and now we're down around 10,000 clients and about 70 staff. We knew we just had to keep persevering. We need to keep looking at ways to build the relationships with our governments and really kind of um, show from the rooftops, that our value proposition is worthwhile to invest in. And by adding new program services offerings along the way has helped us. So we've added an enhanced parenting program that focuses on parents empowering neurodiverse kids. All of this, again, co-design. We are launching soon an Indigenous classroom common care program that will be delivered by the coach right into the classroom in our remote communities. At the same time, we'll be launching our perinatal parenting program, looking at perinatal mental health, positive parenting, and attachment theory science. We worked really closely with Mental Health Commission of Canada and ORCA to get our app certified. That was a very, very large, comprehensive exercise to go through, but I believe that that also will show our true value over time. So our value proposition, it's really important to make sure you're increasing the awareness of your value proposition to lead to further success and scalability. So that was about our, the program design and the lessons learned over time. But just remember, at the same time, we embarked on developing our technology to support everything we were doing. So that was an extra layer. You're going to see we've gone through many different iterations for Iris. Um, you know, we didn't know whether we should keep it outsourced, which was highly expensive, and we also didn't have much control over Iris when it was outsourced. And years ago, in the year 2001, ASP languages was a crude system, but it worked. And again, it was co-designed. But that technology got outdated really, really quickly. So then we decided to bring it in-house using different programming languages. And then that was not as robust because one of the challenges we found was these programming languages had so many restrictions that every time we launched a new program, it took months for our programmers to get it online and to get it functional as far as meeting the needs of our users. So our goal was, as you can see here over time, we really wanted to our next iteration, we wanted it to be very generalizable. We wanted it to be versatile. We wanted minimal programming so that we could add our content without a programmer. We could add the basic AI um, with if then this, any of those kind of piping features and triggers. And because of that, we have really increased our efficiencies. We've driven down our costs for our programming time. We've increased internal efficiencies by driving down organizational waste so that our people are on the phone where they should be. You'll see one of the things to consider if you're considering outsourcing, you really need to think about what is the history of that company, because we did have one company that we worked with that ended up folding, and that was really tough for us, and that's when we decided to actually bring it back in. I mentioned that, one of our challenges as a service delivery program was because Iris was embedded in our research lab and we didn't have control, it also kind of caused a few barriers for us. So once we acquired Iris, now we have full opportunity to leverage the advantages of funding and innovation to further advance Iris. So having Iris in-house has come with so many opportunities and advancements. However, it also comes with a cost. And one of the challenges is we don't really have the opportunity. Nonprofits, it's unusual for nonprofits to own and operate their own technology, and therefore we can't apply for some of the innovation funding. And that is also something that we've been talking with our government partners about. We all know that we need ample investment in order to keep up with technology, to keep it secure, not to mention our wish list items to make sure we're meeting the needs of those we serve. So, looking into the future of strongest families and AI, one of the things that really gets me excited, obviously technology does, but it's all the advantages of the technology. What we're hoping to do in the next few years is have a integrated self-scheduling system. That's one thing that's on our wish list and our roadmap this year. And using our large data to create an effective chatbot, along with co-designing that, but pulling from our big data contained within our servers, so that we know based on the inputted information from our clients, we know what the responses will be. So just to increase that safety. We also are, launching our new programs in the fall and will continue to evaluate it over time. And we really want to begin exploring what are some of the other advantages that technology holds for us? And what are those key features that our clients are interested in and that will improve the care that we deliver? Excuse me. So let's go back to why, does this matter? And I very much wanted to share this story with you. This is Kirsten. Kirsten at the age of 13, did not want to live. She had self-harm tendencies. Her mother and her father tried everything. They tried different programs. Nothing worked. Um, then they found out about Strongest Families, and Kirsten started the Defeat Anxiety Depression program. She quickly, within weeks of learning some of her cognitive behavioral strategies, she started to equip herself with these coping skills through the help of her coach. The coach will match the skills to tailor them to meet the client's needs. And we could hear from her voice and her actions that her impairment issues were being overcome by the fact that she was able to control her anxiety. In the end, she was no longer she no longer had suicide ideation. She was doing better in school. She was socializing with friends. And as you'll see here, Kirsten's mother said, "You saved her life. You gave our daughter back." This is why this matters, is for us to get these systems right by design and to make sure that our funders are investing in solutions that work. And so I really want to emphasize the fact that, you know, for us and what we've seen in Strongest Families, really the ingredients of success are a few things, and the successful formula for sustainability and for scale really is founded in trust and credibility. Trust and credibility that's built through our co-design with our users, through our research and our ongoing validation and data with our decision makers and our funders, making sure that we're able to show them our data and our outcomes, and not just symptom reduction, but impairment improvement as well. We report on multiple different facets of our data, and we use our satisfaction data as well to continue to inform improvements. And that's where that innovation efficiency comes in. So it's trust and credibility, it's innovation and efficiency. We need to build efficient systems so that they are cost effective as well. Leveraging technology to drive down organizational wastes, streamlining workflows. Iris is a full workflow management system. Our coaches know exactly who their next client is, and they know exactly what next steps to take because Iris guides them through that. Similarly, with the user interface, it guides. It's not just a punch a PDF. It's actually a very interactive system that integrates between the coaches interface and the user's interface. And that way, the coach is able to set the client up with success because they're entering all of the goals that they've decided on. Um, and again, the innovation piece of it is to also continue to add new service offerings along the way, working together, collaborating together, doing research together, and then disseminating through a system of care like Strongest Families. Workforce solutions is another secret to our success, I would have to say, because we're dealing with a workforce, our paraprofessional coaches who are highly capable and compassionate and driven, so driven, and we're drawing them all across Canada from a workforce that is not competing with the professional workforce. So that really helps to bridge that gap in professional workforce, and there is quite a shortage here in Canada, so that helps bridge that gap. I also wanted to mention part of the workforce solutions would be, making sure that we have good KPIs on measuring quality, and that we can state our quality back to our funders, and that we can make sure that we're measuring quality and outcomes from client to client, not just aggregate. Now, sustainability, really, all of this is important, but really the key is stable funding. You're going to see time and time again in my talk that the uncertainty of funding as a nonprofit is tough. It's not easy. You have to diversify those revenue streams. You have to speak loudly about the value proposition. And, we really need to make sure that there's we influence governments to make sure there's ample funding to support the systems that are evidence-based and that can scale easily, because we want to make sure that we're impactful. I am at the end of the key parts of my conversation and my presentation. I just want to make sure I acknowledge some of the funders and the awards. And there is a citation list that's also available upon your request. So that concludes the main part of my presentation. And I think, Fiona, you're going to go into a Q&A. Okay, one of the questions here from Marco, do you involve peers, i.e. people with lived and living experience in the co-design? And do you hire peers or have peer volunteers? So Marco, our model is not um, purely a peer support type of model. But certainly our coaches, some of them would certainly have lived experience along the way. So the main features that we look for, the main skill sets that we look for the coaches is, that compassion, the ability to problem solve, the therapeutic alliance is critically important, as you know. And so we don't specifically focus on a peer support model, but our coaches are highly trained, highly monitored. All of their calls are recorded. A percentage of them are graded. And yes, our co-design included all types of people with lived experience of all ages and all backgrounds.
Trish,
I
can you hear me?
I can hear you now, Fiona.
Yay!
Yeah. So the first one from Marco was about co-design and Marco, the only other comment about our coaches, we pay them. They're not volunteers. They're full-time salaried people with benefits, and they span Canada. They work from home in private offices at their house. And then I see, Marco, you also had how did technological advancements help with this innovating, improving services? Well, that's a really great question. We have not ventured. Iris does not have the video capabilities that Zoom would. So when we interact with our clients it's usually typically over the phone. Now, sometimes the kids want the coach to use a their camera, and so we will enable the camera for if the coach is comfortable and if the client wants it. But if you look at some of my dissertation work, and this was pre-COVID. I mean, we could certainly have seen a shift in this, but what we heard from our clients, especially those in the rural regions and those who had huge self-confidence issues, that they preferred the visual anonymity that the telephone offered them. They did not want to be on video. We don't get many people asking us to turn on our video, and we help tens of thousands a year. And one of the other key themes was what people told us was they were not as inhibited by being open and honest with their coach because they knew the coach couldn't identify them. So they really felt that this was a non-judgment type of environment by just keeping with the phone. And our whole foundation has been built around telephone coaching, and so our research wouldn't have involved any of the nuances between visual cue exchanges.
Thanks, Trish. I've had to be honest, because I had to leave and come back in again. I have now lost access to all of the questions that had been asked while you were doing the presentation. So this
Okay,
is proving
that's
to be a little bit of a disaster, but it's okay. We'll do it together.
okay. Yes.
So if you can answer the next question or ask the question.
So there's another one in the chat from Jessica. Would you consider adding lived experience as a desirable competency alongside the other skills? I'm assuming this might be related to the coaching. Absolutely. And like I said, I know there's a lot of our coaches, a lot of our, team members aren't really comfortable disclosing some of their background, but we do know that the empathy that people with lived experience can share, and we have had even some of our clients who did our programs become coaches. So I guess that would be an example of a peer support, right? So yes, I do believe that lived experience would be an important competency alongside all of the coaching protocols that are followed and that goal of establishing a really, really strong therapeutic alliance. Again, that's a lot of my dissertation work was done on that because in the year 2000, people really questioned it was quite unconventional to have a paraprofessional deliver a cognitive behavioral approach over the phone. And the question was, are you going to get a child who has severe anxiety and depression to talk to a stranger on the phone? So we did the research and it works. Our therapeutic alliance is so strong, whether it's a child or an adult, people feel their coach is their friend. They're like my best friend, they're like my sister. And the coach is always there for them. We have very strong retention rates. So typically, if a client comes back in future years, they often will get their coach all over again.
That's so wonderful that they'll get their coach again and that they can pick up that therapeutic alliance. Because especially with these online platforms now, it feels very sort of transactional. And then you kind of have, in traditional services, you have, I don't want to have to keep repeating my history or my experiences. And now we've got it again through online platforms. It's even probably even more worse. I want to
Yeah.
focus a little bit about workforce, just because
Okay.
over the last 25 years, it's like 25 years. And when I think about what's happened since COVID alone, let
Mhm.
alone the last 25 years, like I really think, and I think you touched upon this in your presentation, but I think there is a lot to be said for thinking about how you took your workforce with you. So you've described some of the
Mm,
hesitancy at the beginning about kind of, will the phone work? Will I be able to establish this relationship? Let alone all the advancements we've seen. So I think it would be great to hear a little bit about your kind of that cultural transformation journey you've been on and that change management
mm,
piece.
mm. Well, I mean, I think you've already heard the description of how our paraprofessional coaches have provided that ability for us to scale and scale quickly. Our training protocols are they're just so refined. And I think another piece about our workforce is the fact that we monitor them really closely with a huge dashboard of KPIs, but we also support them. So they have supervisors who are experienced coaches who are trained as people leaders to really walk alongside with them. They meet with them once a week, once every 2 weeks if it's a seasoned coach. We like I said, we audit the calls. I think that quality assurance along that really helped us position ourselves as a effective, trusted system of care because our funders know that we watch our data, that we really monitor our coaches for quality. We share those reports with our funders. We're very transparent. If a coach is challenged in any way, then the supervisor is right there to do micro teachings and listen to the call to give them advice and those types of things.
It sounds like you're recruiting coaches, but actually you coach your coaches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep, yep.
Um, Go on,
And
sorry.
culture
'Cause
and culture, positive culture, I can't say enough. It is so critical to our success and our retention rates. I just remember last week I was at an in-person launch and I started introducing people around the room. And I was like, Mike, how long have you been with me? Oh, over 10 years. And Katie, what, you're you're 13 years. We just have created this family
Mhm.
within and it's extended virtually across Canada and some people we've never met. When I travel across Canada, I make a point of trying to meet with my people so I can hear their
Amazing.
feedback so that we can inform ongoing improvements.
And do you get a lot of suggestions for improvements from the coaches? And are they then what you go
Yeah.
on to action?
Yep. I like the coaches when they're hired, they understand that we're always changing. We're not static and we look for people's feedback, right? If we're not on the front lines, we're not necessarily going to know what's working, what's not. Yes, our data, we use data every day to inform things that we do. Right? But it's
I
really the voices of our people that are important, right? And that iterative process, we use satisfaction data, we use process data, we use coaches' feedback from their calls, and we create wish lists. Now, if we can't accomplish something because we need to look for funding, and sometimes, you know, advancing technology like this self calendar, self scheduler, I've got to look for a grant for that. And that's
mm,
hundreds of
mm,
thousands of dollars, right?
And
So
I
we have
think,
a
yeah.
wish list. We've got a wish list of things that are going to add value that our people want, right? And that we can accomplish either with our existing resources, or if we have to look for extra funding because we're working on such slim margins as a nonprofit. We don't
Mm.
have a deep pocket to rely on.
Yeah, and I think it makes it even more challenging when those grants opportunities also start to disappear through, economic and fiscal pressures. I'm just going to go back to
Yeah,
some of the questions because I'm mindful of time.
sure.
One of the questions you may have touched upon this, in which case apologies, but so when we look to the future and
Hmm.
we talk about some of the technological advancements you talked about, have you any concerns about AI use? Sounds like it's very well thought through, but it's always a concern. How do you ensure the
Mm-hmm.
thorough data capture is protected?
Yeah, so these are conversations that we have at many tables, and I've just had a recent conversation with our good colleague Andy Greenshaw from Alberta. We have leveraged the advantages of technology, but basic AI is very controlled. We can make sure that that's safe and controlled because we program the ifs and thens. We're looking at, okay, how can we create a chatbot? How can we create a chatbot that's going to be interactive in between those once a week coaching sessions that are an hour long, right? Is there any advantages to that? Co-designing it, excuse me. But I mean, that really will take time and effort. And for us, we want to make sure it's safe. We've heard about the issues and the risks of chatbots that are taking data from the World Wide Web. We know that it's safer to have contained databases on servers, and that's what we would be looking for because we're dealing with a sensitive population, multiple sensitive populations. We want to make sure that whatever we create is pulling from our evidence-based data set contained within our servers. And so that's what our commitment will be to a chatbot, along with co-design of what the features and types of supports that our clients might want in
Mm.
between those coaching sessions.
Mm. Do you see that when you think about your client group, that there's also that educational piece about the use of AI and how that's informing their service delivery to raise up the education of the population overall?
Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of our clients, we also made sure that we don't just have technology and this fully interoperable app, that excuse me, people can do one program after another if they got comorbid issues. We also provide hard copy materials, and so we give people the choice. And so
Mm.
what we see is most adults still want their hard copy materials, and some of our children and youth want both, so we give them
Ah,
both.
interesting.
But they're not necessarily completely reliant on the app either, right? And we haven't done a lot of AI machine learning co-design yet because we're not at that point. We're really using their feedback to do the basic AI that our Iris programmers can already do. So I think that is really an important question. And I think as we co-design, some type of intelligent chatbot, that's the Strongest Families chatbot, I think that will be important to hear. What are people looking for? Are they
Mm.
looking for more AI advancements, and how are they
Mm.
using it?
I know, yeah, I think it's really interesting. We did a webinar a few weeks ago with a youth from Australia, and he was like, honestly, me and my peers are not talking about AI at all. Maybe my either, and I think he was 25, he was 25. So he was like, maybe the 18-year-olds are talking about it, but we're not talking about it. But meanwhile, we are like, AI, AI, AI.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just conscious of time again, but with a more future sort of lens question. With the experiences that you've gained in Canada, do you think that you could develop for another bilingual country? Is that too
Oh,
complex
we have.
for an
Well, we
albeit very successful charity?
We exist in Finland. We have for several years, as you could see on our journey. And so our colleagues out of Turku University, actually, I think they just celebrated, I think it was their 10th year anniversary at Turku University a couple of months ago. So we were on screen to celebrate that with our colleagues there. And so it was quite, I mean, it was an exciting opportunity, and it was a, it was a long working relationship, but that was the partnership, and training the coaches, and exporting our model over there. The other
Mm.
example would be Vietnam. We had actually great success with all the back translation. And here's the really neat thing. We didn't know we were going to have a cultural impact in Vietnam, and we just merely did the first phase of a pilot test, so to say, with English speaking Vietnamese folks, and our coaches were bilingual. And when we looked at the number of parents who reported using physical discipline coming into our program, the majority of them after our program were no longer using physical discipline and reported stronger relationships with their child. We were so happy with that. And here's what happened. All of that work, and we had strong partnerships there with the equivalent of our Public Health Agency Canada, and the funding fell through.
Which brings me to the final question that we're going to ask today. And Trish, it would be great if you could provide a way for our audience to get in touch with you, whether we can share your email, because
Sure,
we do have
absolutely.
so many questions. I have never seen such an engaged audience, actually. I've never seen
Oh,
so many questions before the panel's even finished. So,
uh,
it speaks to the value of the content. Thank you for this interesting presentation. This is a question from our lovely Nina, who's always attending. Sustainable and predictable funding is obviously a key challenge. What is your advice in terms of managing competition from a range of private apps, support providers that have a profit interest in all of this? We all know that this is becoming a huge industry, so that's why I ask.
yeah, and you're singing the same song that we're singing. It is tough. I'm going to give you an example. When a small charity like ours loses a $400,000 contract because of an RFP process that we would never have been able to be successful with given the competition. It was the first time I ever had to downsize in 20 years. We were on a
Oh.
huge trajectory. And then boom, it is so hard. And that is the hardest thing on our culture when I care so deeply about my people and who are so compassionate about those they serve. There's no good answer. This is a recipe of, you know, really. And I think Mental Health Commission of Canada in their e-mental health strategy, they speak about this. We need to convince our governments, our funders, to make sure that they're making the proper investments
Mm,
into the systems that are evidence-based, that have been co-designed, that have been proven time and time again, that builds trust. Charities are here to make a difference. We don't have shareholders, right? We don't have deep pocket. And so therefore, my as I travel across Canada, my advice to some of our governments and even the federal perspective is, really look within and abroad, what are those solutions that are working? What are the ones that are safe? The Mental Health Commission has established an app library of all the apps that they have certified along with ORCA. They're looking at, creating that same type of library from what I can read, for showing those evidence-based solutions, e-mental health solutions that are effective and safe and producing outcomes. And I'm going to go back to the fact that engagement alone is not equal to outcome. Um, Registrations, the number of registrations is not going to show as a measurable impact necessarily. And so we really want to make sure that we're influencing governments and funders. Um, and the other piece of this for us is being cognizant of not relying on one stream of funding. We've had to really be thoughtful about our strategy. Everything we do is tied to strategy. We have fundraising strategy, comms strategies, government relations strategies, you name it. We're strategy. Yeah. And making sure that we're diversifying our revenue streams because you can't just rely on one pocket of funding. You can see our history over time. We've had to diversify. And so with the coupling of grants that we've built trust with some of our funders, the donors that we're building out have really been part of the success as well. And then always looking at internal efficiencies
mm,
with Iris and our workforce.
mm.
I hope that
Fa-
answers the question.
Well, I think that's such great advice, and I think it speaks to challenges. Certainly, I recognize those challenges here in the UK as well. And I think it probably speaks to our sort of SME colleagues, smaller and medium-sized enterprises as well, when
Mhm.
they're kind of developing new products. I wish that we could carry on, especially wish I could carry on because I had a bit of a break in the middle of the webinar. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. It's always a pleasure to see you. It's always a pleasure to hear about your work at Strongest Families Institute. And I know that the audience, based on the engagement this afternoon, this evening, really enjoyed it as well. Your email address has been shared so
Okay,
that those
perfect.
who have
Oh, yeah.
questions can get in touch with you.
Feel free.
To
That's right. Yep.
Thank
Feel free to
you.
contact me. Let collaborate because if we collaborate and partner, we're going to make a difference in hundreds of thousands of people's lives. And that's what we're here to do.
Amazing. To our audience, thank you again for being part of this vital collaborative movement. Your contribution is invaluable, and we hope you'll keep supporting the transformation through our events. Thank you for bearing with me and my connection issues this evening. I'm very sorry. Just a quick reminder, the EMIC Congress 2025 is fast approaching on the 19th to 21st of November at the Western Harbour Castle in Toronto, Canada. I feel a bit like a TV presenter saying this, with online access available if you can't be there in person. It's an exciting opportunity to connect with leaders from over 40 countries and across every sector, all in one place over 2.5 days. You'll hear about real world digital mental health solutions, gain early insight into policies, AI innovation, and best practices, and help shape global frameworks for mental health equity. It's really special, and the energy over the event is truly infectious. We'll drop a registration link in the chat if you'd like to learn more. Once again, thank you for being here. My apologies. You can check out the future webinars that are happening on the EMIC website. And as usual, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you.
Thank you.